And we're live. Welcome back to the Loopcast. It's Tom, Erica, and Josh. Today we look a little taller than Josh. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Josh is looking
Which is not
ominous.
accurate in real life, just to be clear.
The not even close. Actually, I'm
No.
about half the size of Josh. So
Accurate.
Loopcast brought to you by the Loop, of course. Every Catholic American's favorite morning newsletter. Go subscribe if you haven't. But Josh is in a secret location.
It's not secret. I'm in our nation's capital, but I'm going to be doing some meetings today. It should be kind of fun. I'll let you guys know about it later in the week. Let's just say.
Josh will be, getting things in order in the nation's capital, solving problems, So yeah, we'll tell you about that later. But if he sounds a little different, he is in DC. Grateful for him for joining today. We have a great show for you. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Really, some sad news. We had a shooting at Brown. Really bizarre and tragic. So we're gonna get you the details there. We had a couple actually really high profile deaths over the weekend. A really gruesome mass shooting in Sydney as well, and then Rob Reiner lost his life. So we're gonna cover all of those faithfully. We are gonna don't worry, we'll bring you up. We have good news. The Philip Rivers experience was just unbelievable. I can't wait to talk about that. It's like everything you love about sports and more. But we're also going to be tackling Trump signed an executive order on AI legislation at the federal level. I remember we briefly talked about this coming. It has officially came. We now see the legislation, what it's going to look like. It's especially interesting to me. It doesn't really, it doesn't fall on partisan lines. There's a lot of debate. States are getting involved. Even at the national level, there's a lot of debate. So I'm going to be covering that. And then also, he has signaled that he's going to reclassify marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 at the national level. No decision's been made. I'll say it. But, the weed heads, I don't know if we have many weed heads in the audience here, but we're going to talk a little bit about weed. And then we have a Catholic chaplain situation I want to make sure we briefly touch on. But, of course, Twilight Zone and good news going to be included. It's going to be a great show. Really grateful to have all you join. I actually got to run into a few fans of the program over the weekend. I was at a wonderful wedding in Columbus, and I was stopped a few times by some members. So shout out to them. Just really wonderful. Of course, like the best people, beautiful, handsome, intelligent, witty, great conversation. They're like a little nervous to stop me because I got a camera in my hand. So I got
because they said Erica was the best. Right?
Yeah, exactly, of course. But it just continues to affirm, the people that listen to this program, I would love to hang out with and get a drink with. But I was on the clock, so I couldn't do that. But people had a great time at that wedding. It was a wonderful Catholic wedding. So shout out to them. And it just, nothing better than beautiful Catholic wedding. So shout out to you guys. If you want to help with the show, go ahead and subscribe over on YouTube or leave us a review, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Helps us out a lot, keeps you guys in the loop, all that good stuff. But Erica, if we could get down to what is going on at Brown University, what do we know at this point?
Yeah, this is a really disturbing story, in part because the suspect is still at large and the police are keeping the cards very close to their chest if they haven't lost them completely under the table somewhere. So on Saturday, it's going into finals, the second half of finals for the Brown students. So this is about 4:00 Eastern, so middle of the afternoon. There was a group of about 60 students who had gathered in the Barris Holly Engineering and Physics building in Providence, Rhode Island at Brown University campus. They were reviewing for a final exam in economics, and the shooter entered. There are some interviews now with the young man who was leading that review session, who did survive the attack, and he describes being in the front of the room, seeing the shooter come in with a very large gun, is how he described it. So we're talking massive rifle, and just started shooting. Around 4:22 p.m. then, the school finally issued the shelter in place order, an active shooter warning, which persisted all through the night. So some students were sheltering in closets, and they described, rooms at the gym, locking themselves into ballrooms in order to escape the shooter. And they were let out over the course of the night and into the next morning. We have some footage here of students sheltering in place. I would just play it on silent there.
Yeah, tough watch
for the viewers. I mean, it's just, it's so frightening. The whole rollout of the investigation has been, to put it mildly, very confusing. The campus, the Providence police and federal agents were conducting a manhunt. A person of interest, a man they described as in his 20s, was detained at a hotel about 20 miles outside of the city. He was taken into custody Sunday morning, and then his name was leaked to the public, Benjamin Erickson, and they had a photo of him, but it was the wrong Benjamin Erickson. Sounds like Jeffrey Epstein and Jasmine Crockett. And so it was the wrong one. But then it turned out to not be Benjamin Erickson at all. So there was this last late night press conference at 11 p.m. Sunday, and they're like, we're actually releasing him. He had nothing to do with it. And the profile that we're now pursuing has nothing to do with this man. So again, not until after his name had been dragged through the public for over 12 hours that day.
Yeah.
The police are, again, to put it mildly, they seem confused. We have here the press conferences are crazy to watch right now. So you can play this little clip of the police chief from Providence.
Somebody had said, and I want to make sure we're correct in reporting this, that he may have walked out of a building, and I'm wondering, how did he get access to the building, and is there video from inside the building?
That I don't have. I don't have the answer if there's video inside that building that depicts him. There is video inside that building. However, I haven't seen him on video inside that building, and he did walk out of the building.
So can you explain that to me, in all of us? So he was in the building, but we don't have video of him in the building.
We haven't recognized him in the video yet. We do see some video from inside the building of a commotion. Clearly, students are running. However, we don't have from the video that I've seen so far, we don't have the suspect depicted in a video.
Is there any reason to believe this is international terrorism, or is this just some disgruntled student?
That we don't know yet.
A disgruntled student that just came in to shoot up because he was upset about final exam?
Yeah, Brown is one of the most heavily surveyed campuses. It's actually, of the Ivy League schools, it is the most radically left in terms of student polling and ideological outlook. It's also one of the most heavily surveyed. So, of course, Twitter just went crazy over the weekend, and the lack of information coming from the official channels has fueled a lot of different conspiracy theories about what is actually going on, about the profile of the shooter. We know very little about the victims. We know 2 students were killed outright in the shooting. 9 others were injured, and most of them remain in the hospital in critical condition. The one student whose identity we do know, tragically, she's a 19-year-old sophomore at Brown. Her name was Ella Cook, or is Ella Cook. She is deceased, and she was the vice president of the college Republicans, which, again, if it's a random shooting, the fact that the shooter took out the vice president of college Republicans at a school where only 0.8% of the students identify as very conservative seems really strange. So there's all sorts of ideological concerns now circulating as well. Like, was this a targeted attack? Supposedly her family was and there's all kinds of these. We don't have a lot of information. The reality is we just don't know at this point. But to quote Ann Coulter, the fact that we don't have a profile of the shooter suggests what the profile is probably going to be. It was just insane.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
again,
when the shooter is a white male, they let you know that right away.
Yeah.
I would love to speak to, I was talking to Erica a little bit about this before. I feel like we're kind of like 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 in recent memory on how to properly handle public information regarding high profile, bizarre shootings. I mean, to put this in context, this is a broad daylight during finals, 4 p.m., someone walking in with a rifle and executing 2 students. And we don't have an image. We don't have a picture. We don't have, that doesn't seem right at all to me.
it smells like Butler, PA all over again.
Right. Thomas Crooks, we don't know anything about this guy. And we got to hear from Tucker Carlson's podcast 6 months later that he had internet activity. That was a lie. So I don't know. Josh, maybe you have more deference to like the FBI or to law enforcement or something like that. I just feel like it's been it almost feels intentionally mishandled as of recently, which of course leads everyone to jump to conclusions on, what's the ideological motivation? What should I be thinking? What should we be concerned? I mean, this is really like, even just, I keep rethinking about that. Like, I went to college. I had built key cards. If someone, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's not broad daylight, by the way. I hate to nitpick, but like at 4 p.m. in Providence, like you're already talking about twilight.
It's dusky.
Because it's December 15th.
I live here. Yeah.
So, I mean, you can still see, obviously it's not like pitch black, like it would be at 5 or so. No, it is kind of curious. Like, they presumably have a lot of cameras and they don't have anything of the guy walking in or walking out anywhere with a gun, or,
anywhere on campus. I don't.
Yeah. It just feels like Keystone Cops. Like, what is going on here? And In terms of, I mean, I don't know. Do you feel any confidence listening to that person give a press conference? That police guy give a police? I didn't hear any confidence at all. It's like, to me, I just feel like we've seen too much, of these police officers lately, especially from very, liberal areas. They just get out there and they just kind of meander, and it's like everyone's left like wondering what the hell happened. Like, if you have to keep some of the information close to your vest, I get it, but like, sorry, I can't answer that. Like, I expect crisp, solid, boom, boom, boom. That's what I expect my law enforcement guys to tell me exactly what they know, tell us exactly what they can tell us, and then move on. Instead of this, I mean, I get no confidence listening to that guy.
Yeah, and same thing listening to the mayor of Providence and the president of Brown. It just, is it intentional? I don't know. We just don't know enough at this point. Are they intentionally hiding because the profile that they do have doesn't fit their narrative of what should happen in right-wing extremism and all that? I have my prejudices and my guesses as to what's going on. But in general, like Josh said, the way that they have presented themselves the last 48 hours, it's just been a total lack of confidence and almost a disinterestedness. And really disappointing. But there's one person who has the answer, and that would be my senator, Chris Murphy. He went right on the talk shows, and he had the answer as to why this happened. You can just play that.
Do I have to?
Yeah, because Josh needs to.
Well, it leads into Australia.
This is not shocking because over the last year, President Trump has been engaged in a dizzying campaign to increase violence in this country. He is restoring gun rights to felons and people who have lost their ability to buy guns. He eliminated the White House Office of Gun Violence Protection, and he has stopped funding mental health grants and community anti-gun violence grants that Republicans and Democrats supported in that 2022 bill. So he has been engaged in a pretty deliberate campaign to try to make violence more likely in this country. And I think you're unfortunately going to see the results of that on the streets of America.
That's a
There we go.
pretty big statement.
So it's actually Trump's fault.
I was actually kind of mad too. Like, I don't know if anyone saw the CBS interview with Barry Weiss and Erica Kirk, and she brought on the guy who was asking the question to Charlie yeah, and his dad's like a Hollywood producer, which is kind of interesting anecdote. And he basically was like, well, that Trump is so he talks so violently, brought up all the violent rhetoric. Like, can't you tell him to tone it down? Isn't he kind of responsible for this? Was like it was a bizarre ambush. I don't even understand.
It was so weird.
Why you would why would you even try to get this out of this? So I understand the opportunism
you don't
here,
to a grieving widow. That's
right.
One of them. I mean, and again, the harsh political rhetoric is kind of on both sides of the aisle, but more deliberate on the left. I mean, it's Schumer that said, Kavanaugh, the whirlwind's going to come for you. And then somebody literally tries to assassinate him a few months later. No apologies from Schumer. They tried to kill him to stop Roe v. Wade from being overturned. And you're just going to blow by that. So all this stuff is garbage. And then we'll get into the story in Australia, where the solution to what happened in this event, where this guy just starts opening up fire on a bunch of Jewish people, is to say we need more gun control. In Australia, you need more gun control? They confiscated everyone's guns. This just drives me crazy. It's like, what do you mean the answer is more guns? The problem is, I have been around and touched many guns in my life. I have never in one moment thought, I could just decide to murder 20, 30 people. No. It is true that a gun allows you the opportunity to kill more people, but like Rob Reiner, his own son, apparently, killed him and his mom with a knife.
Terrible.
And the problem in London is all the stabbings. So it's like, maybe we need to talk about what education really is about. It's about moral formation. It's about making sure we tell the next generation, thou shalt not kill. And this establishment of religion. Shut up. We need to tell people not to kill people. We need to bring people back. We need to get off of psychotropic drugs and draining your time on screens and smoking pot all the dang time. Anyway.
Well, and I think we need to be willing to talk about, and this is what the mainstream media lacks. And just to go back to the Sydney, it was at the Bondi Beach. There was a big Hanukkah celebration, mostly Jews celebrating together on the beach, and a father-son gunman team who were migrants from Pakistan, right? Like they're radical Muslim. They're just Muslims. They're Muslims.
The son was born in Australia.
There you go. The son was born in Australia. So we have an Australian and a Pakistani. They're Muslims. They open fire. There was actually an amazing moment that was captured on film of a local Muslim store owner who saw what was happening. And you watch him like creep up behind one of the gunmen along some cars and taking 2 gunshots to his own body. He subdues him and grabs the gun. And that's how the guy was stopped. So there were some amazing stories of heroism from a terrible day. But
Really,
we have to be,
really incredible. Like, it's crazy this even got caught on film.
I know.
I'm gonna share that real quick.
The
It just gives you chills. It's like how everyone would hope that they would respond. I think especially men in a situation like that. I mean, this guy's a total hero. It's really amazing.
The guy in the white shirt and the man in the black shooting.
Takes him,
Yep.
manhandles him, grabs the gun. By the way, he's afraid.
And then aims the gun at him. Yeah.
And shoots at him to but like he should have subdued him, should have kept him there and like, don't move or I will shoot you, because then the guy runs off and he unfortunately grabbed another gun. While this was going on, there was a police officer, a female police officer. She was hiding behind a car.
Yeah. And didn't do anything. It was a terrible story.
People.
Well, she probably didn't have a gun. Not to make it right. But she did have a gun on her?
She did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I think that, I mean, too, I agree with you, Josh, in terms of left-wing violence,
I want more toxic masculinity. Do you?
Right.
I like some more. I don't want gun
that?
control. I would like, actually immigrant control.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say is that
seller.
we have to start talking more publicly about what's actually going on. Because we have the shooting in Australia. We also had the shooting, not shootings only, but shooting, knife stabbing demonstrations in multiple Christmas markets over the weekend in Europe, which just came to my attention before the show. So Brussels, Belgium, their world famous Christmas market, they had to shut that down. We had in the Netherlands and Amsterdam having to shut that down. France just announced that the fireworks for New Year's there will not be a public gathering on the Champs-Élysées, as there has been every year for hundreds of years of celebration there, because they cannot guarantee the safety of the people who would go to celebrate. And what the governments are refusing to acknowledge in their public statements about these events, and what the Australian Prime Minister has refused to acknowledge, is that these sorts of things are the direct result of permitting mass migration from an unassimilable worldview, meaning Islam, that it's for a father and son, Pakistani Muslims, to get together and to shoot up a bunch of Jews. Like, that's not like, I don't see Methodists doing that in Milwaukee. I don't see like Unitarians doing that. But the unwillingness of these governments, even now, after all of these events, to recognize this root cause means that it's just going to keep happening over and over.
Milwaukee's Catholic, but your point stands.
Milwaukee.
No, I mean, the
Thanks,
thing is,
Josh.
Okay, that was the main
Keeping me honest.
takeaway
I
from that.
appreciate it. Details matter.
Yeah.
That's all right.
I don't see the Catholics doing it either.
I got into it over the weekend. My wife loves details, and finally she was giving me all these details. I said, enough. Enough details. That's where the devil is. But anyway.
That's where the devil is.
But no, the thing is, you have to ask yourself, like, if mass migration from the Middle Eastern countries, which would be mostly Islamic people, if that involves making it so that Jews cannot celebrate together in public at a park in Sydney, and if it means that Christians can't have Christian markets, in all throughout Germany and all these other countries, why are we talking about gun control as the solution? Yeah. Why don't we just say, let's have a wonderful homecoming and bring these people who apparently do not like Western society, Western civilization, and return them to Pakistan and other Middle Eastern countries. It's like, you know what? It sounds like you're not liking it so much. If what you do is kill people and don't get along, like, why don't you go back to the places that you had previously conquered instead of conquering us?
Mhm.
But again, there are a lot of people in our country that think it's far, far worse to be considered, anti-tolerance. They would rather allow people into our country that are perfectly willing to kill us or rape our women than to be considered racist. That is by far the greater crime in their mind. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a part of it. I just it's so hard to even take like all this news in one day because it covers it's like a perfect combination of all of the biggest errors of like American foreign policy or the West in terms of their policy towards immigration, but even like a son killing their parents in America. Like I
Right.
just think in many ways it feels
Rob,
like we're reaping the poor fruit of just a total loss of will to conduct yourself seriously as Americans. I mean, even you just brought up the thing about the police, Josh, but like it just feels at some point like the men in the room, they stopped raising their own children. We have a lot of fatherless homes. They stopped standing up to obvious evils when it comes to like transgender ideology or the type of SSRIs that kids are being given. They didn't put their foot down when obvious incitements to violence were brought up before. We just tolerated it. We allowed people into the country that shouldn't have been let into the country under the auspices of radical empathy, something like that. Like we are not, it just feels like for so long we have not taken ourselves seriously as a country from the inside out in terms of like foreign policy, but then also in family policy. Like we can't even have conversations about like real moral character or the spiritual life of our own country as a Christian country. And so now we're just seeing like, it just feels like blow after blow after blow after blow of this is just obviously the poor fruit of a lot of those decisions. And I guess what gives me a little bit of hope now, what gives me a little bit of hope now is that it's becoming so in your face that you have to speak openly about it now. There's no, like, I don't even know how you could, the old conversations about like, well, we just need more gun control. I don't even think really like most serious people are having that as like, oh yeah, this is a real solution anymore. Most serious people are now like, there's something 5-alarm fire problem going on right now in my home, in my backyard. The obvious only solution is to speak openly about these problems and then to change the way that I live my life and what I'm doing in my own community, how I'm raising my own kids, where I'm like allowing my kids to go, like what kind of, it just feels like it's reached a really personal level and because it'd be impossible not to. So I don't know. That's how it feels.
It invites us to go to a back to basics approach of things because the fact of the matter is we've suffered too long in the West, not just in the United States, but all through Western countries in adopting this position of ideology trumps experience. And the fact of the matter is like, it's a whole lot of pride. It's like, like I get to show how much more I love and welcome the stranger. And then there's no, vetting for people, there's no like discernment. Like, is it good for a society? Like someone fleeing persecution, let them in. Okay, fine. But do we let in tens of millions of people? Do we leave the door wide open? And again, to pretend like everything, is ideological. So, well, should we allow women the opportunity to be police officers? Maybe. Some people are kind of not so good on it. And then like, oh, you're sexist. You got to allow women to be cops. Then you see
I think there's specific uses, but like people aren't able to have the serious conversation about what should those specific uses be. And like, should they be a Secret Service officer that would be in charge of throwing themselves in front of the president? Probably not. And like, I don't even think you'd be called a sexist at that point for saying that. Most people are just like, well, we've seen what happens.
Well, in our crowd, yeah, but you go out in the regular public and they're like, how dare you be so sexist for it? And like, you point out stuff like you mentioned with Trump's Secret Service lady, she's like, cowering or whatever. And then this one here where she's hiding behind a police car, making sure she's safe. It's like, there are people that are completely, because Australia doesn't have concealed carry. They've confiscated all the guns. They need you, the police officer, to do something, and you didn't do jack.
And maybe the more root of maybe the point that I was trying to make there is that we've allowed that ideology to blend into policy that's actually discriminated against the people that should be in those roles. So, for example, with police, we need to lower the standards and we need to make a quota so that we have more women on purpose. And of course, that takes away from the people that would naturally go towards those roles and should be in those roles. And that's self-inflicted.
It's because ideology trumps. That's the problem. It trumps everything, in today's society. It's not just like, what can we do to try to make our system more fair, and to understand that everything you're talking about, you're balancing goods. But under ideology, it's like, no. We must have 50% of police officers be women, and we must have 50% of this. And and they just start from a standpoint of of some sort of principle or rule. And then you never allow the lived experience to kind of inform, well, could there possibly be side effects of this or for that? Like confiscating guns in Australia, that'll work. That we won't have these mass shootings. You just had one.
The 5 remaining.
You literally
guns,
just had one. So it's not
Yeah.
stopping. It's not stopping it. What it's done is it's rendered everyone in that area unable to have a gun. But police will have guns. Yeah, then she'll be a chicken, behind the car. And you'll have to rely on some guy to step up to the plate without a gun and just wrestle the guy to get a gun.
Right.
But in Texas, someone pulls out a gun and shoots the guy dead.
Yeah, I wanted to just go back to Pogo's point too about, after a weekend like this, it can feel so out of control and so just outside your sphere of influence. It can get I was very upset this morning, going through all the headlines. It's like, okay, what are we even going to do for good news today? But I think that the Pogo's point of hopefully this will drive a lot of us back to the personal choices that we're making right now in our lives on how are we raising our kids. And this is exactly how you mentioned Erica Kirk and Barry Weiss kind of sidelining her with that guy coming out and being like, well, you also condemn Trump. And I think her response was, one, she held it together, which was amazing. And two, her response was very much like, I'm not going to speak to, the both sides argument, all of that. She's like, absolutely, I condemn political violence. I'm the victim of political violence. My children are the victims of political violence. But what we have to ask ourselves is look in the mirror and see that the line between good and evil goes down the center of all of our hearts. So ask yourself, are you parenting? Are you handing your kid the iPad so that you can go do your Pilates for 2 hours so you can go do XYZ? Are you giving up your parental role with your own children? But she really brought it back to using events like this to ask yourself, how can I live better? And how can I raise a better future for our nation? So absolutely, I think that all the policy that you're mentioning, Josh, we need to push for that.
I mean,
but I think her
someone in the
response
comments
is
is
so
just
good.
correcting me a little bit. I mean, they didn't confiscate all the guns, but what they did is they made it so hard. It's like the gold standard. If you love gun control, Australia, short of gun confiscation, is like the gold standard in terms of ramping up total, a ton of gun control. You can have a gun, but you have to at least provide one good reason for it, other than, and by the way, self-defense is excluded. It's like, that would, I don't hunt. Okay. So I don't have guns to hunt. I'll just let you know that.
Yeah. To maybe round out what Erica was saying here. And I think there's just been a lot. It's been, obviously, if anyone's followed the news, it's been pretty exhausting for the last year. I think people get a little hyped up right after something like this happens because politicians and activists, they want to enact their, preferred plan, whether that's, more tighter gun control or less gun control or whatever. They use it and then they really start ramping up on this is what would solve, what I mean? This is going to be the solution.
The verb
and maybe
right?
what I think about when this happens, I'm like, I think I'm not saying don't engage in what you believe your given solution is, but maybe at the end of the day, this is actually a struggle between good and evil. And it all is. And if you've ever if you've ever looked into history at all, or you've read the Bible, you realize that at any given point in history, each society has their challenges. They have their people pulling the strings. They have their revolutions. They have their horrific deaths and things that everyone has to, plagues, crime. you name it, right? Like there's it's always going to be there. And I guess at the end of the day, you know, I could have been in that, anyone could have been in that library, or anyone could have been on that beach, and
Sure.
your life could be called from you and you don't know when that is. And so, or you could be in that situation and you might be called to have the moral courage to stand up to that shooter, to make that. And all you can do really is to live a life good enough, or attempt to become holy enough, or to be good enough, because those small decisions lead into big decisions. And then when your life is called from you, you hope you can stand before God and said, I did everything that I could. I did everything that I could, and I didn't hold back.
Now,
And
remember what we said the previous episode, like grandmothers are always proven right on
Yeah.
just about everything?
Right.
And this is
I
literally
agree.
the truth, because for the last several generations, it's been the kind of the grandmas is saying, no, don't do that. Don't do that. As society just increasingly goes, oh, what's the harm? We'll do this. You know, we'll remove prayer from public schools. You can't even put the 10 Commandments up in the classroom, all this kind of stuff. Don't pledge allegiance. We don't want any solidarity amongst any of our students. They're all free agents willing to be consumers for corporate America. And there shall be no higher value than we're all customers in this big economy. And it's like, well, wait a minute now. Like, if we want to try to, you know, we need to actually strengthen the bonds of community, you know, and it starts in the schools. And we just can't, you know, like this, the imposition of this fog of oppressive secular humanism on this country. It's amazing. And you know, for the longest time, we've been a very religious people that just happen to have very irreligious rulers. And over time, that can't last long. You see a winnowing away as each generation becomes more secular and drifts further away from the faith of their fathers.
It seems like, I appreciate you said that. It seems like it seems like almost intentionally, or maybe it was just a combination of ignorant decisions, remove the framework for people to understand or grapple with suffering seriously. And it would just drive you crazy, or you would end up living in hatred or something like that, because you would have no concept of the cross, no concept of redemptive suffering, and no concept that we exist eternally. It's beyond what's going on right now. And I know that the girl who lost her life in the Brown shooting, devout Christian, her pastor in Alabama, spoke about her at the homily. And, you know, that as sad as all of this is, you know, it gives me, it makes me happy to know that, like, she had that framework, and that hopefully her family had that framework. So beyond anything else we could do, like, I don't, honestly, I've been blabbering all over my words because I don't even know. This just disturbs me so much personally. I'm sure it disturbs all of you. Is to pray for her and to pray for the people that lost their lives, and for the repose of their souls, and for their families, that, you know, peace and consolation can be brought to them. Because the longer I live, I know that we make fun of me as a younger guy. I'm just like, I just start seeing the world more clearly as outside of my control, and that it is a struggle between good and evil at the end of the day. And I'm somewhat united historically to all of the different, you know, phases that we go through, but the struggle remains the same. Like it's against sin, it's against vice, and hopefully to live a life good enough to be able to stand in front of God and, you know, be satisfied with where I am. And everyone has that individual journey, and everyone makes little decisions and little compromises that either bring you closer towards hell or bring you closer towards heaven. And only through supernatural grace can you really move the right way. So pray for the repose of soul. And at the end of the episode, we're gonna be hitting the prayer, but that's all that I can think about doing right now. Just so sad. Okay, on to B block now. Sorry, it was kind of a heavy opening, but you know, we live in heavy times right now. But I wanted to give an overview on Trump's executive order on AI state regulations. It is very interesting to me. I think I saw a poll, like 80% of Americans say the government should prioritize AI safety, even if it results in slower growth. So this is clearly on people's minds. Trump thinks he has his solution to it. Some states disagree. But as of December 11th, he signed an executive order titled Ensuring a National Policy Framework for Artificial Intelligence. The primary goal is to promote U.S. leadership in AI by preventing a patchwork of state-level regulations that the administration views as burdensome to innovation, economic growth, and competition with China, It seeks to establish a unified, minimally burdensome national framework while curtailing states' ability to impose their AI rules. It's especially important because I think about half of states at this point have some type of legislation that does combat AI in one way or another. I think the executive order actually singled out Colorado. They have laws against algorithmic discrimination in high stakes decisions, for example, hiring and lending. California, transparency and disclosure requirements for AI models, including risks of catastrophic harm. And then Utah and Texas also have laws, broader AI governance acts. So everything from deepfakes, privacy, bias, safety testing, energy costs. It's becoming clearly a statewide issue as a lot of places put in data centers, et cetera. So I have a couple of provisions from the executive order for us to think about here. It establishes an AI litigation task force. This directs the Attorney General to create a task force within the Department of Justice solely to challenge state AI laws in court. Challengers could argue that these laws unconstitutionally regulate interstate commerce, are preempted by federal policy, or are otherwise unlawful. Identifies onerous laws. The Commerce Department must evaluate and list state AI regulations deemed harmful, those requiring disclosures based on speculative risks or potentially forcing ideological biases like DEI into models. Funding pressure. Agencies like the FCC are instructed to consider withholding federal grants, such as broadband funding under the BEAD program from states with conflicting AI laws. So there's going to be a little bit of financial punishment there. And then directs agencies like the FTC and FCC to explore policies that could preempt certain state rules on deceptive AI outputs or disclosures. It also tasks the White House advisors, including AI czar David Sachs. You guys might recognize his name. Gotta have a czar.
So dumb.
With preparing legislative recommendations for Congress to create a formal federal framework preempting conflicting state laws. It does have some carve-outs. It specifies exceptions, such as not preempting state laws related to child safety, data center infrastructure, or state government procurement of AI. So that's good news. I think everyone's kind of on the same page with those as they should be. So that's what we have right now. We'll see as this all comes down. As I said, there are some fault lines that do not go on party lines. Ron DeSantis has been especially outspoken. He called the order a subsidy to big tech, expressed concern that it would dilute states' rights. Steve Bannon, not a huge fan. AI needs more regulation, calling it the most dangerous technology in the history of mankind that will lead to a jobs apocalypse. I know many people feel the same way. Bernie Sanders has chipped in similar concern, very similar to Bannon. So, Josh, I can't remember the last time we talked about it. I think you were a little bit sympathetic to a federal solution to this as opposed to a state-by-state solution. How are we feeling?
No, I was actually along with Ron DeSantis. I mean, I get the idea of a patchwork, but executive orders just isn't really going to get much of it done. But I just said if there's a federal thing to be done on this, if it is done, it needs to allow states to provide additional protections, and it can't override that. That's my biggest concern.
Okay.
So, if Florida wants to do strong protections for their children because of AI, like please, by all means. We've heard all these crazy stories about AI. Now there's these AI toys, and they're like sentient beings practically. And you can't, they'll tell you horrible sexual stuff. But the thing is, like, you can't also criticize the Chinese leader. Did you see that? The little AI toy like freaks out. Like, I'd almost tempted to buy it just to do it for that, just to mess with it. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, the Chinese leader, he looks like Winnie the Pooh. It's not appropriate for you to make a comment like that. Oh, you want honey too?
I mean, that's no surprise. There's
DeSantis,
foreign governments.
Remember, like DeSantis is carving out like Trump isn't smart enough, or not smart enough, isn't MAGA enough thing. Because remember, I said like he's got an opportunity because there's going to be no delta between Trump and Vance really on all the issues. Vance is still by far the man to beat in the primaries, but between H-1B visas, there's an opportunity for DeSantis to attack Trump on for, getting weak on this. And then also on AI, it's like, why would we allow a future Democratic administration to tell states they can't do this or that? So it's politically wise. I actually also agree with it. And I'm not like a total DeSantis guy. I mean, like if I voted today, I'd probably vote for Vance, but anyway.
Yeah.
Erica, how you feeling?
I'm feeling like I would rather leave it to the states as usual. Like, let the states go. We'll have some states that are, highly regulatory when it comes to AI, and just sort of let the marketplace decide which approach is best. I'm allergic to allowing like heavy federal regulation. I understand the interstate commerce thing. It's in the Constitution. I'm a fan of the Constitution, but I also worry in setting the stage for future administrations, which might be less friendly to conservatives and the conservative vision of a good America. Like say Kamala Harris gets in, not going to happen. I understand, but someone along those lines. And there's already this sort of federal oversight that challenges states' rights to regulate their own commerce within their borders. Not a fan. So I'm with Josh on this one. I would rather leave more of it to the states and see what happens. But it's a brave new world. It's crazy out there.
It is a brave new world, that's
It
for
is.
sure. Because Trump
If you're
is
worried, wait. I have to do a little
Go for
plug here for the deep. If you are thinking about how do I handle this personally in my life, the deep last week was my own personal lines in the sand when it comes to AI. What does that look like in my home? What does that look like for us as Catholics and people who are serious about living a human life? Where does that happen? So, the states are going to give us some lines. Trump wants to give us some lines or fewer lines, but in our own lives. If you want to check that out at the deep from last week.
Yeah. It'd be great to get I know there's the AI 2027 people. I think he was like a founding member of OpenAI, and they obviously have lots of concerns about what they created, what they let out of the jar. So they're acting as a bit of a watchdog now. It unfortunately feels to me like we got a race against China almost always pressures people into making bad decisions, like rash decisions, to use the big boogeyman. We got to do this now, and just give rights to. I'm personally really concerned about the big bailout. I think we're going to give a lot of these AI companies, like they're already asking for preemptive guarantees because many of them are going to go bunk. I just think that's obvious writing on the wall here.
Yeah,
like, it's for progress, it's for the future. But of course, I think back to the Luddites. What happened to the Luddites after they were, factoried into oblivion? Most of them ended up on poverty wages, and their children got diseases or started working, or they emigrated out of England. So yeah, I don't like I think everyone's feeling it. 80% want some type of safety. It's coming way too fast for a lot of people. And if it isn't implemented in a way that's going to be pro-human, pro-worker, I'm kind of out on it. Let's put it that way. So I think it's probably easier for them to lobby at the federal level, a lot of these big companies at the federal level, than to have to go state to state to state to state to state. And so I'm just, kind of ignorant on a lot of it. I would much rather have them to have to go state by state by state by state by state.
Absolutely. Slow it down.
Which would just slow it down by proxy. So,
Yes.
yeah. And then marijuana. Okay. We got to talk about marijuana briefly. All right. Now, of course, we're going to get the people like, well, it's just like alcohol. I'll address that in a little bit. The Trump administration, we got good info from Tinfoil Tom that the Trump administration is preparing to issue an executive order regarding the reclassification of marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substances Act. This would be a major shift in U.S. cannabis policy. Right now, it's all at the state level. So state by state, I think almost half of states now have legalized marijuana in some form. And so to reschedule it at the federal level would take it from Schedule 1, which means high potential for abuse, no accepted medical use, same category as heroin. Schedule 3, moderate to low potential for dependence, similar to ketamine, anabolic steroids, or Tylenol with codeine. Tylenol with codeine, interesting. Ketamine has not been great, if anyone knows about K-holes. So key impacts: recognizes acceptable medical use for use federally for the first time, so this would be a big change. Eases restrictions on research and medical access. Provides significant tax relief for state legal cannabis businesses by ending the IRS Section 280E penalties, currently prevent deducting normal business expenses, leading to high effective tax rates.
Follow the money.
Could improve banking access and reduce federal enforcement against state programs, which like all states just rolled over on, by the way. Like, it's everywhere. I was at a hotel 2 nights ago, or it was like last night, and someone smoking a fat blunt in Ohio, like right in the door you open to the hotel, fat blunt right there. It smells so bad. I'm like, people have no shame anymore. I would have been a little embarrassed to smoke a cigarette that close to the door, let alone
Right.
a huge marijuana blunt right in my face, just blowing the smoke right in my car. It was crazy.
Shame is
So,
so
if I-
passe, Tom.
But cannabis stocks are through the roof right now, 50% for some companies in ETF. So yeah, I mean, come on, money's through. Do you? I don't know how to do this. I'm not a lawyer. People are going to say, well, we did prohibition for alcohol. Marijuana, has it made any state better? Who is this for? Is this for the marijuana companies that are basically snapping up billboards and making our community smell disgusting so they can make money off that? It makes people literally go crazy with psychosis. It messes with your hormones, increases risk of heart attacks. Horrible for pregnant women. I've even seen some studies recently. It's not actually that good medically. There's debates on that. So, like, I've never met someone that was a heavy weed smoker that I've been like, they're really killing it in life. Like, they're super motivated. They're getting after it. And then it makes every downtown smell terrible. So I'm like, can I just, as a citizen, I don't know what this makes me, on my political ideology. I don't want it. I don't think it's good for anyone. I don't think people should do it. I've maybe changed a little bit of that. I think it was a little bit more free love on that one.
If anything, we should allow the states to continue to change their mind on this, because we're seeing certain
100%.
rollbacks like Massachusetts and others that are saying maybe this wasn't the best idea, and they're pulling back a little bit away from the edge on this. I know that my state of Michigan did it because Democrats wanted to make sure people got out and voted in 2018, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone looked around and be like, we need more drugs? Thanks, Trump administration. That's really been great for the country.
So we are, Catholic Vote, just by the way, totally opposed to this potential idea that they're floating of rescheduling this. And so we're sending out the alarms. We're going to activate our voters here at the Catholic Vote base, and we're going to tell them to contact the White House and tell them, no, we don't want this rescheduled. Catholic voters do not want this. And this is not good. It's not good policy for the country.
100%.
Okay, but how would you answer if someone's like, well, why not just ban alcohol? It's way worse. More people drink, makes people more violent. It's worse for society. What would you say back to that? I don't care. That's basically.
No, I mean, I just don't get this idea that like a drug that bakes your brain is worse than moderate alcohol use. Now, people who get drunk all the time or drive drunk, those are problems. But like, the casual consumption of 2 or 3 drinks doesn't make you doesn't fry your brain, doesn't make you a bakehead. I mean, like, I don't see how this idea that I've never been convinced by those arguments. And by the way, I'm not like a total, I used to drink a lot more than I do now. Like now I maybe have a drink every other week or so. It's not really a big thing. I'm busy with my family and my kids and doing this other stuff. But like I've never found the arguments between alcohol, comparing them to marijuana, to be at all convincing. And especially, by the way, we're not talking about this kind of lame dope stuff in the 70s.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
This stuff is being manufactured is much more potent and laced with other stuff. It's not the same ball game. So no, there's, and by the way, I can walk down a downtown street and it's very rare for someone to be drinking on it, but it's more, I'm much more common to get secondhand marijuana smoke if I'm going up and down a downtown street. So why do I care? I mean, it's just bad news.
Yeah, 100%. I was just gonna say the analogy with alcohol might have worked back in the 1990s when I was in high school, but at this point, it's just a totally different ballgame when it comes to what's in the cannabis. At this point, I was just like poking around for some stats as well, and the rise in states that we have longitudinal studies, because some people are like, oh my gosh, this will be amazing for science because now we can finally study it when it's going to be a class 3. We already have all the longitudinal studies that we need to know that this is a really bad thing in states that legalize
or 2 eyeballs to look around.
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh,
like,
all
can
these
you
guys are-
sniff?
So like,
You
screw
can
these
get high
studies.
just walking in Union Station. I mean, I was in DC this weekend to pick up my daughter, and it stank. Like, it just smells bad when you're outside. But the number of I was reading a study on the rise in accidental pediatric either deaths of children or addictions in children, because when you legalize this stuff and you have gummies lying around the house or you have your joint lying around the house, in the states that legalized it, the number of children who encounter it has gone up so exponentially, and it's become a real issue in states like Colorado, Massachusetts, here in Connecticut. So the danger to children, yes, alcohol, your kids can get into your alcohol bin, but apparently when it comes to the gummies, it's a much bigger issue in the danger to kids. So yeah, and like you said, Josh, the states themselves seem to be walking it back. The fact that Massachusetts they have a pretty good shot at a referendum at this. They just need another 10,000 signatures to put this on the ballot next year. But the states that have tried it, the people don't like it. They don't like having this. So
I want to do a longer video on this. Eric and I talked about this.
yeah, we should do a deep episode on marijuana.
I've noticed a shift, and I'm curious if anyone else has noticed this too. Like if I was back in even high school or something, like high school or like middle school, I feel like there was kind of the with vices in general, with gambling, with marijuana, it was kind of, you would have been made fun of. Even with stuff like eating healthy. You would have been like, oh, you're weird, or you're eating healthy, you should be having junk food, it's no big deal. Like the kind of like rationalization, like, you're kind of square or whatever. I don't know what it has happened, but if I talk to people, there's like a specific strain of secular, like on the offense against gambling, against marijuana, in favor of eating healthier, porn, big time. Porn was the one that actually kind of got me into this conversation, because I remember at times, like I went to a public middle school and people would like make fun of you. They would talk about their favorite, whatever. And, oh, you're not doing this. And now there's this, like, it's totally not religious, by the way. I think that there's overlap, of course, but there's just secular people who are like, it is actually lame now that you are gambling so much, or you are smoking weed, or you are watching pornography. And I don't know what happened there. And I actually feel like it's now a bit on the inverse. My working hypothesis is that as we've institutionalized vice, it kind of means that rebelling, like being different, is actually rejecting the institution, which now every other ad is for sports betting, marijuana signs everywhere. Like that has kind of become the hegemon. And it's actually kind of now the countercultural, like you're actually cool if you reject the very obvious, very accessible thing. And I think by proxy, it's making people a lot more sober and clear and impressive. I think we're actually reaping some benefits, strangely. Not always, because there's people that, there's the problem with the gambling stuff is that it's basically designed for you to lose, and people that are highly shock, but actually literally is. And the people that are most susceptible to it now have a casino in their pocket and have lost tons of money. I mean, put their family in a terrible position, whatever. That's still bad, of course. But I think maybe a small win or something is that the attitude, the wind has totally shifted on this in a way that I think is for the best in your heart of hearts. So I'm excited about it.
The percentage of the population that gets on that wind expands rapidly.
I think it will. I really think it will.
It's not necessarily an obvious Christian message that all these influences in society are trying to keep you, sedated and scrolling,
right,
and
drugged,
watching, porn and doing sports gambling and smoking weed and this kind of stuff. I mean, Christian conservatives like, yeah, we've been saying this forever. And now that we get these secular based guys who are like, yeah, this is a horrible thing that these corporations are doing. It's a welcome addition, and that's wonderful. So coalitions, let's go.
Dude, I had this is a cool personal story. I wonder if anyone's experienced this too. The same thing happened with technology. When the first iPod Touch came out, it'd be like, oh, everyone had the games on their phones. It was kind of cool. It all felt very like cutting edge. And I just had I got a drink with a friend, and he from out of town, and he flipped his phone around. He's like, hey, check it out. And he had like a dumb phone. Like he had like the screen just had like 4 options on it. He's like, dude, it's the best. Like I'm off all social media. I just did this. Like you're now bragging about your lack of technological access that would have literally been unthinkable. And I'm like, everyone who's like, I do the same thing now. And I'm talking like almost evangelizing to people like, dude, it'll change your life. Like you're not anxious. You don't miss it. I'm almost a little bit stressed if my phone's not bricked. Like I talk about brick all the time. And I think it's exactly right. It's like people realize that it's no longer like kind of fun and new and cutting edge. It's like, oh, there's actually people trying to sedate and control me, steal my time, steal my attention away from things that would actually make me happy, and try to like
your
manipulate
kids.
me. Exactly. Like manipulate you, to make you angry about this or make you angry about that, so that you'll spend more time, that you'll act in the way you want to act. And it's like it's a real act of like freedom and like personal autonomy to just be like, I'm taking active steps to reject that, whether that's weed, gambling, porn, technological addiction. It's actually really sick. Like I'm really I'm bullish on the future of young men in this country. So anyway, that leads into good news. Erica, what do you got?
All right. This is like a sports good news. So on Friday, the Congressional Gold Medal Act was signed into law, and it was honoring the Miracle on Ice. The 1980, so 45 years later, the 1980 U.S. Olympic men's hockey team, yes, the one from the movie Miracle
Boys.
on Ice, with the Congressional Gold Medal for lifting the nation, inspiring generations, and helping shape the future of hockey in the U.S. I just love the photo. They got the guys from the original team at the White House behind Trump. They're all wearing these like white cowboy hats. There you can see some photos from that original game that went down in history. We beat the Russians against all the odds, and it is still one of the greatest movies, greatest family movies that you can watch with your kids.
And it's the greatest
Christmas.
sports moment of all
Greatest
time.
story. I was
Great
gonna say like the
story.
movie's awesome,
All
but
time.
the moment itself is what was the call on the broadcast, Josh?
Do you believe in miracles?
Yes.
Unbelievable. So iconic.
Yeah, so long time coming, but what a great moment in the White House.
Mike
Love it.
Ruzioni.
People from Minnesota and people from New England can actually get together and do things. Isn't that cool,
Yeah.
Erica?
Sure
Be
can.
nice to each other. Look at that, Josh.
All right, Josh, what do you got?
So Scott Bessent decided to go ahead and nix several DEI-inspired coins that the Biden administration had planned for the 250th anniversary. And now we have more coins that are going to be celebrating the Founding Fathers, the Pilgrims, Thomas Jefferson. So big difference here. If you can see, they were going to do women's suffrage. They're going to have the iconic woman, that young girl at Arkansas, the whole desegregation, which kind of reminds people of sort of our darker history. I think it was a good call to shift attention to having figures like James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington. We have aspiring liberty. It's just, it's awesome.
Yeah, much better vibe
important,
for 250.
Important point. They hated on r/coins on Reddit, so that's how you know it's going to be the right thing to do. If anything is hated on Reddit, that means it's probably the best thing ever.
Exactly. Just go to Reddit and find out what they hate, and then that's probably a good idea.
Opposite. Yeah. So mine, I got so cute. Two very cute sports moments. So Indiana up big time. So the IU students at the Newman Center stopped their Christmas party to watch Mendoza win the Heisman.
He's
Fernando
the quarterback for the
Mendoza,
Hoosiers.
he goes to the church at IU. Where was did they have the name? It's Father Patrick Hyde, who's the man.
He is the man. OP.
Totally the man. Here's a video of them celebrating.
That's the quarterback getting the
The
Heisman.
Yeah, it's the highest reward for the best player in college football. And here's Father Patrick. This is one of my favorite tweets in recent memory. I was actually in Indianapolis for this game. I wasn't in the stadium, but here's Father Patrick celebrating the big win. He said, "As I distributed Holy Communion at Sunday evening mass at the IU Newman Center, it hit me. The joy we experienced winning the Big Ten title is but a sample, a simulacrum. Wow. Thank you, Erica. Of the joy, everlasting and unshakable joy Jesus offers us in the Eucharist, in the church, and as his disciple." Come on.
Yeah. Little taste of heaven.
Come on
right
now.
there.
Shout out Fernando
Okay.
Mendoza. Just seems
Eternal
like the
joy.
nicest guy. Shout out IU. But other one, of course, Phillip Rivers.
Whoa.
Got off the couch. I would love to know what he was doing last Sunday. Because in a week, he was with his 10 kids at home. He was probably at mass somewhere. And he got
He
the
was
call.
coaching high school football, right?
Coaching high school football. And he got the call and said, "Hey, we need you to play the feared Seattle Seahawks defense." And he did it. And I was closely watching this game because, I mean, coming off the couch, hadn't played in 4 years. He's 44 years old, playing for the Colts. And here's a quote from him: "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you, and he will never leave you nor forsake you." Yes, because I couldn't imagine facing the Seahawks defense after coming off the couch. But there were some great moments in the press conference. They unfortunately lost. They almost won. And he threw a touchdown, which was awesome.
Oh.
But it was so awesome. He had a press conference, and I loved his.
Certainly, I think, hopefully, certainly I think of my sons and those ball players, that I'm in charge of at the school, that they'll say, like, crap, coach wasn't scared. You know what I mean? It's like, shoot, sometimes there is doubt, and it's real. And again, you can the guaranteed safe bet is to go home or to not go for it, and the other one is, shoot, let's see what happens, and so I hope that in that sense that it can be a positive to some young boys, or young people. It doesn't have to be boys, but
Grandpa of the year.
Grandpa of the year, no question. Here's another one.
Maybe it will, I don't know, inspire or teach, to not to run or be scared of what may or may not happen, Hopefully, certainly I think of my sons and those ball players, that I'm in charge of at the school, that they'll say, like, crap, coach wasn't scared.
So cool.
Yeah.
Nunk Cheppy. And then all his high school players got together at a restaurant, and they were all cheering him on when he threw that touchdown. It's like, could you imagine your coach? Like,
so was it just that one?
It's like
game?
the rookie.
Is he heading back now? Like going back to?
I
his
think
coaching?
that Riley Leonard, the backup, was injured, and he might come back, something like that. But
Yeah.
he might
We'll
actually
see.
play again. Yeah, you don't
We'll
know. He might
see.
play again next week. And he threw a touchdown, and they were right there at the end. They hit a last-second field goal, but then the other team came back and did a field goal. So, but yeah, it was just adorable. So I was super happy about that. Shout out Philip Rivers, beautiful family.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right.
Church corner.
Josh is over right now.
One thing, Josh. Yeah, if you got to take off, you got to take off. We understand.
Well, let me just get into my Twilight real quick.
Sure.
I just want to let you know, and then I got to get going. But like everyone's, my friend Steve Cortez here at Catholic Vote put together this poll, and it showed that like Catholics were not happy with inflation. And I understand why. I go to the grocery store too. I just want to let people know about the fact is that we are at a 73-year low on the amount of cattle supply that we have in the United States. And people blame drought, feed inflation, avian flu, all this other stuff. But the fact is, this is actually an engineered crisis. Started under the Obama administration, finalized under Biden. A bunch of regulations resulted in a systemic reallocation of agricultural land towards non-consumptive conservation uses under the banner of climate resilience. And so like this I saw this story from beefnews.org. Between 2021 and 2025, they report the Biden administration implemented a suite of interlocking environmental economic policies that resulted in cattle herd contractions, notably the America Beautiful 30 by 30 initiative, Federal Plan for Equitable Long-Term Recovery Resilience, the Bureau of Land Management's Public Lands Rule, and all these other efforts. And what it's done is that the national herd has fallen to its lowest level since 1951, with beef prices at the retail counter exceeding $8.50 a pound for choice cuts. This is a problem. And, I do think Donald Trump is trying to do his best to turn these things around. But it's not like chickens where he was able to move on chickens faster. But for cattle, it's 3 years, between birth and when you can actually harvest the meat and stuff like that. So you can't do it quick as a turnaround on it.
Is that why he's messing around in Argentina, like with the beef?
I think that's, first of all, we have a good relationship with Argentina, with Malay. And by the way, the right winger won in Chile, which was kind of cool too.
Yeah.
So we might see some opportunities to increase our beef stock. But the reason why the sticker price, it's amazing. Like you look at
crazy. The
other
change.
meats, and it's like, why is ground beef more expensive than pork? It's like crazy.
Yeah.
But I just want there's a reason it was engineered that way, and it was by the Bidens. And with that, I do have to get out of here.
I love a good government-induced
Josh,
famine.
Go save the country. Peace. All right. The one we wanted to hit before, Erica, if you're Twilight Zone. So another thing we definitely want to bring up here is this is a problem. Tinfoil Tom put it our way. There's a defunding of catechists for soldiers. And so the U.S. Army's canceled a wide range of religious support contracts for chapel services, including coordinators of religious education, Catholic pastoral life coordinators, and musicians, as directed by a March Army Installation Management Command memo. Archbishop Timothy Broglio, head of the Archdiocese for the Military Services, criticized the move
Great guy.
in a pastoral letter, saying it overburdens Catholic chaplains, harms Catholic chapel communities, and disproportionately impacts the free exercise of religion for Catholic soldiers and families because there are relatively few Catholic chaplains, and the Catholic faith requires ongoing education and sacramental preparation. He also warned that the cuts have left chapel offices dark and services reduced. He's urged legal and legislative action. In response, the Army says it will re-examine the canceled contracts and emphasizes its ongoing commitment to religious support for all service members. I think they need to re-examine it a little bit harder.
A little faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was shocking. So our military, of course, between 20 and 25% are Catholic in our military, which reflects the broader American population. And yet only 6% of the chaplains in the military services are Catholic priests or Catholic catechists. So there's already this sort of discrepancy and systemic neglect of our Catholic servicemen and women. And I think the hopeful thing about this story, if this had come to light, 5 years ago under the Biden administration, almost no hope of any action being taken, right? You think of the staff at the time.
Wait, but he's
he's
Catholic.
I heard Biden was Catholic, yet to be confirmed.
Interesting.
He's a devout Catholic. He likes to hold rosary beads.
Yeah, he was at the Eagles game though.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen him in a while. I was like, I'm glad he's at least getting to enjoy some football in his retirement.
That's right. But the good news is with Pete Hegseth at the helm and the Trump administration, the people who are in place now, it seems like something could actually change here, and that we could see a full restaffing and even an amping up. But I've known a couple of priests who have one from the Dominicans, shout out Father Joachim, who actually left their assignments in order to go become military chaplains, and shout out Father Kevin Peake. There is such a need for Catholic priests in our military. So if you know anyone who's even thinking about leaning in that direction, I thought this story did a really good job of bringing that to the forefront as well. And like I said, under the current administration, there's actually hope that something might be done about this. And absolutely there should be, because if anyone deserves the full panoply of sacramental services and preparation, it's our servicemen and women.
Word.
So,
all right, Twilight Zone, Erica.
oh my gosh, all right, I'm gonna need a deep breath for this one. We had several surrogacy and IVF scandals come out over the weekend. I'm just gonna limit myself to one. This is a Wall Street Journal investigation into a court case that actually happened in 2023, but it was never reported in the wider media. So the Wall Street Journal investigation found a growing trend of ultra-wealthy Chinese elites using the largely unregulated U.S. surrogacy market to have dozens of children born in the United States. And this goes back to our birthright citizenship argument, that this was an easy way for them to guarantee American citizenship for their quote unquote families. I mean, we thought Genghis Khan was bad. This is like Genghis Khan meets the 21st century technology. So this particular case that the Wall Street Journal uncovered, Zhu Bo and the education CEO of China, Huang Yu, turned to California, of course, surrogacy clinics, which are almost entirely unregulated. This, of course, is the home of that Chinese couple that bought the big house and had like 16 American-born children in there, shipping genetic material to create IVF embryos. So they were the fathers. They shipped their genetic material over to America to have these IVF embryos created in petri dishes, implanted in American surrogates, and born on Californian soil. The costs are estimated to have reached $200,000 per child, and granted the newborns automatic U.S. citizenship under the 14th Amendment, because China bans the practice at home.
What practice?
Surrogacy. They
ban surrogacy?
Yeah. One thing in which the Chinese government and I
Good job.
completely
Thumbs up,
agree.
China. Thumbs up on that
Yeah,
one.
so Zubo, the man at the center of the scandal, said he hoped to have 20 or so US-born children through surrogacy, boys, all boys because they're superior to girls, who could one day take over his business.
Also sounds very Chinese, unfortunately. But
Yes, very
yeah.
Chinese coded. Take over his business. And because they were American citizens, his business would now be American and Chinese. Several were being raised by nannies already in Irvine, California, as they awaited paperwork to travel to China. Zhu calls himself China's first father and is known in China as a vocal critic of feminism.
That checks out.
On social media, his company said he actually has more than 100 children now born through surrogacy in the US. And this judge in California, to her credit, they actually have never before denied parental rights to parents who commission children through surrogacy, but in this case denied Zhu parental rights over the multiple unborn children waiting to be born in their compound in Irvine, citing his absence as a parent. And the whole thing, it's like, this is the sort of case where conservatives bring their concerns. They're like, this could happen with surrogacy.
This is like a fever
And
dream.
the response, it is. The response we get is that would never happen. That's not happening. It doesn't happen. And then the Wall Street Journal's like, actually, it did
Wait, so
happen. And it's worse.
Erica, do you have any predictions on how long it'll be until it actually happened and it's good that it happened?
I'm going to give it, probably Wall Street Journal dropped it. The New York Times will pick up on it in about 3 months. And after the New York Times picks up on it, then we will start to get all of the talking heads on the morning Sunday news shows saying, oh, this is actually a good thing.
It's actually a good thing. This
So
is
I
actually
get
the blessing of liberty.
cycle. Yeah, that's how this goes.
So this almost feels like it was made up. This almost feels like it is a made up story
People don't
to
believe-
convince people to get rid of the 14th Amendment, at least when it comes to birthright citizenship.
I mean, if this is not the silver bullet that ends birthright citizenship, we are just so broken. We can't respond to real life crises like this at all. This is, we need to end the anchor babies because we have a Chinese billionaire with 100 American born children who aren't even his children. Anyway,
Kind of genius.
Yeah.
Bad. Let me put it
Yeah.
out. Let me put it out for the record. People
Totally
look
bad.
this up. Bad. Do not do this.
Totally bad. Yeah. And so, I mean, I know in
Genius
this show,
loophole though.
Genius loophole. I mean, he saw it and he went for it. Big time.
100.
Like
he not just one, two. He's like 100.
100.
We're gonna up the
I am the
odds.
Genghis Khan of my time.
Oh my
All the
gosh.
children will have my genetic. Yeah. And so I know in this show, we've talked about like the marijuana. I'm totally on the state regulation. The AI stuff. I want the states to be, go a whole hog. But when it comes to surrogacy, we need a national ban ASAP. This is totally federal stuff. It should be ended. We do not need patchwork surrogacy laws state by state. We need a national ban now. And it's crazy we have no regulation. It's absolutely insane.
We got to be one of the, because Italy banned it.
Italy banned it. They were one of the first in Europe. Europe also has very, very hands off. But the conversation in Europe, if you're talking to influencers, public intellectuals, they have become much more cautious about surrogacy, and there's much more advanced conversations about regulating it over there than here.
Yeah.
If you want more on the surrogacy crisis, check out my interview with Katie Faust I did a few weeks ago. She is at the forefront of this battle. The struggle here in the United States is that we are so nice, and like the nice people in the Midwest, you tell them these stories and they're like, that is so evil and disgusting. You are making that up. They don't believe you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we have the receipts. It's happening, guys.
No, I think at this point,
So
people in the
bad.
Midwest are like, I'll believe anything, man, because life has gotten so crazy.
crisis.
Life has gotten so crazy. Yeah, exactly. Depending on where you are. Yeah, this one's a no-brainer. I think we just
From your
gotta-
lips to God's ears. Yeah.
Yeah, we just
14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, done, surrogacy banned.
surrogacy out. I'm out.
That's what I'm voting for in 2028, people. Like,
No surrogacy, please. No surrogacy. No.
so bad.
All right,
Oh, is this for me?
this one's for you. I felt like someone was channeling a little bit Erica here. I'll just play the clip. I thought it was very interesting to think about. Here we go.
You don't always live in an era where there's an important one, in your town that you can join. In general, that's not what people do with life. And what I think has happened is Well, frankly, I'm going to connect it to the sexual revolution. Right? The sexual revolution creates the opportunity to get one of the most profound rewards, in fact, the most profound reward that the universe has ever produced, as far as we know, without having to invest very much work at all. Right? So by making sex common, it totally altered the way people viewed the number of years they had to live. Right? They could afford to put off child rearing. Right? It could be distant in the future, which left all of these young people with all of this energy who might well not have been involved in movements if they were struggling to, raise a family. But because the family part has been put off so long, right, it is considered abnormal to marry early. It is considered normal not to. What people do is they take the energy, the seriousness of purpose that would ordinarily be directed into managing a marriage and the role of being a parent, and they put it into something. And Heather has pointed out that this is especially powerful with young women who seem to take on causes,
Yes.
and they defend them like a mother defending her child.
Yes.
That's a very powerful force. And the point is, if the idea is, well, climate change is a threat, and your role here on Earth is to make sure that that threat is addressed, and you put the mama bear energy into your climate change work, well, that's pretty frightening, especially if climate change isn't the threat that it's been made out to be, right? You have a large number of mama bears doing this ferocious work, and there's a question about what it even is, whether that's even in the top 10 list of concerns we ought to have. So anyway, the connection I wanted to draw is that the projection that you're telling me Elon has made about high income for everybody is a little bit like another version of that, right? It's like, okay, well, sex became relatively easy to access as a result of reliable birth control plus abortion. And then now wealth, the ability, purchasing power, is going to become trivial as a result of AI. I don't know if that's likely, but let's say that Elon is right about that. Well, okay, then what exactly is supposed to structure your orientation to the universe? What is supposed to give you purpose? If it's not producing kids and protecting them from the horrors of the world and making them strong so that they can go out into it and accomplish important things of their own, and it's not creating wealth so that you will be rewarded and that your spouse will smile on you, whatever it is, then what is human purpose? I think this is a terrifying prospect, that everything might be taken care of for us and leave human beings listless.
So good.
We're going to end up like the fat people in Wall-E,
It's Wall-E. Yep, that's what will happen.
slurping.
No, I love Brett Weinstein. I mean, he's an evolutionary biologist, and his wife, Heather Hying, who he referenced here, I actually got to interview her about a year and a half ago about these kinds of questions. And they're not believers themselves, but they're kind of the large Trump tent that they were first eyes were opened under COVID, and sort of the extreme DEI. They were both persecuted terribly at their university out in Oregon.
Was he an intellectual dark web guy?
Their podcast is called Dark Horse. That might be what you're thinking of. I think
He might have been. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but
I think that's fair. I think that's fair assessment. But yeah, this is great.
He's actually had, yeah. In general, what I've seen from him, even like his, he had pretty good takes on the Fuentes situation, like the young men situation, like that were not hysterical and not, whether I disagree or agree with it or whatever, I thought that they were pretty reasonable. Like he had a pretty good reflection on a lot of it. And so as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, Erica's sexual evolution. She'll appreciate
She'll
that.
love it. I did appreciate it.
And yeah, maybe that gets back to what the regulation with AI. Everyone's feeling it. Because I don't know, can anyone mount a serious defense that like the abortion pill or not the abortion pill, but birth control, mass birth control, abortion has not radically altered, not just like how we live our lives, but even how we relate to the opposite sex in many cases. I would argue in many ways not for the better of the human person. And even if you go back and read Rerum Novarum and a relationship to work, to private property, to purpose, what at least is being promised, as he's saying, we'll see what comes through on it. It would disorder the human person in our relationship with work and human flourishing, no question, in a way that could be super negative for the vast majority of people. And at the end of the day, the soul, which would be the most important, as the sexual revolution has, I think it's just totally marred the souls of so many people.
You go back to the book of Genesis and you look at what are two of the sort of primal characteristics of what it means to be human. So we're made in the image and likeness of God. And obviously a big part of that is God's own creative power, that it's to make. It's to build and to create things. And people always point to the verse after the fall where by the sweat of your brow you will eat, the thorns and will choke up your food and all. But John Paul II made the point that work in the sense of the creative work is part of who we are. And the other piece, of course, being be fruitful and multiply. So our sexual complementarity to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. And with what I think Brett's pointing out in a secular evolutionary biological way here is also a very theological, Catholic, Christian understanding of what it means to be a human person. And when you take those away, the way that the pill did with the sexual revolution, and the Elon sort of, you won't have to work anymore vision, and you will be rich. The human drive, who we are, the shape, the form of what it means to be human, that's not going to go away. And so what you see is this sort of perverse playing out of that motherly instinct when there's no more children. And he talks about climate change, but lists the cause. When you have a vast swath of young women with no children, that energy is going to go somewhere else, and it will, because there's no child there, it will be misdirected to our detriment. So on that happy note, I would actually urge watching the whole interview. He's really, really fascinating mind, genius level thinker. So
yeah, definitely.
Heather Heiling too.
He was on Rogan.
Yeah, he's been on a few times. She has too.
Yeah,
for good conversation.
Right, definitely an interesting listening. Okay, so we're gonna end with prayer today. Great show, guys.
Let's pray.
Yeah, let's pray seriously. But yeah, we got shows this week. Wednesday, Friday. Got the Deep coming on Thursday. Go check out last week's edition if you want more LOOPcast. That was a good one. But we're gonna pray daily prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. O Almighty, ever-living God, who by the cooperation of the Holy Ghost didst prepare the body and soul of Mary, glorious Virgin and Mother, to become the worthy habitation of thy Son, grant that we may be delivered from the present evils and from everlasting death by her pious intercession, in whose commemoration we rejoice through the same Christ our Lord. Amen. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe, pray for us. Have a great Monday, guys. We'll catch you later for the Wednesday episode. See you then.